Hello, everyone. We are here today with our last Meet the Candidates session, where we are going to be meeting candidates for both VP membership and VP finance. I'm going to allow each of them to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about where they are currently located or maybe where they're from, as we are a global organization. As well as a little bit about what type of HCI are you dabbling in, and then of course which position you are running for, and why you are interested in that position. And so, if it's okay, I'd like to go in order of who is in my tiles here. So, Adriana, you are first.
All right. Thank you, Helena, and hello, everybody. So I'm Adriana Vivacqua, and I'm a professor at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I am currently in Salvador because I'm at a conference, but yeah, still in Brazil. And I apologize for the bad lighting. That's what I could do with hotel lamps and stuff. White woman, straight black hair, about shoulder length, wearing a red shirt. And I currently serve as VP at large in SIGCHI, just so we know, where I'm coming from. I work mostly in the space of CSCW and cooperation, and I've worked with this for quite a while, actually. Small groups and collaborative systems. We've done some work in emergency management and the sort of ad hoc improvisational work that goes on there. And like I said, currently have served in the SIGCHI as VP at large. I have served before as EC for Equity, the previous EC. That's when I first joined EC, I guess, and I started to understand how SIGCHI works. For a while, I've served in multiple positions, of course, with group and CSCW, and currently serve also on steering committees for group and CSCW and for the Brazilian CSCW community, which is why I am at this conference right now in Salvador. And I don't know, I guess what else you wanted to know? Like, why do I run for this position?
Which position are you running for? And
oh, okay. So I am running for a VP membership, which is a new position. And, it will be hard to follow Naomi, who was our first VP membership. But I think that it's important to acknowledge and sort of try to understand who our members are. And we are, as you said, like a large, diverse, and distributed group of people. And I think we need to understand what this means as far as being a membership-based organization. So, how can we best serve this community, the different people who inhabit this community, who are part of this community, and what do they need? And that might be different things. So what is membership for each of these people? And I think that that's one of the things that I think one of the reasons that motivates me to try to understand how to best offer whatever it is that our members need, whoever they might be. So I guess I'll stop here and then
thank you, Adriana. Thanks for kicking us off here. Hao-Chuan, you're the next one in my tiles. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Hao-Chuan Wang. Okay, I'm currently an associate professor at the University of California in Davis, in US. Previously, I was also a faculty member in Taiwan, so I have this kind of international kind of faculty teaching and research experience. I spent 6 years in Taiwan as a faculty member in National Tsinghua University in Taiwan in Hsinchu, and then I moved 6 years ago to US. So now it's about half and half. So it's my great pleasure to be running for VP Finance this time. And my first experience with SIGCHI has to date back 15 years ago. Okay, so 2008, I was a student volunteer for CHI at Italy. I still remember Florence. Okay, and as a the first time as a PhD student, you don't know what to expect, and that was definitely, inspiring experience, right? And then since then, for 15 years, I keep serving on all different roles. I also engage in research, educational activities, there have been so many things that of course I developed my career as well, so all these things come hand in hand. So I just feel a strong commitment, and strong motivation to do more for the organization. Okay, so that's the big picture. Okay, so in terms of just a couple of kind of background so that people can understand me a little more. Okay, so first, I'm an educator and researcher. So in terms of research and education, my area is collaborative and social computing. Okay, so as you can see, for SIGCHI, the specialized conference I go very often will be CSCW group, and of course I go to CHI, but I also work with people on ubiquitous computing, working on sensors, working on well-being related topics, and these days I'm also working with people on human-agent interactions. So that's more of the research and education aspect of that. In terms of community service, I'm currently serving on the executive committee as a VP Finance, and this is my second role. I joined the EC about a year ago, start as a VP at large, focusing on supporting community's best practice. Okay, so I initiate best practice working group, and also because of my international experience, I also take care of the Asian committee, okay, Asian regional committee, serving as a liaison, okay, to help bridge SIGCHI EC and the Asian regional committee to provide what they need and exchange information, okay. So I started as a VP at large, focusing on those things, and actually we just complete production of the best practice videos that have been made available to the community for supporting reviewing practice. I switched my role to VP Finance around the end of last year, and this was definitely a new challenge and a new experience to me, because I think in the past, even at the EC VP at large, is to think about how to take initiatives, right, and explore opportunities, and this will be more of maybe, like looking into unknowns, right, or try to maintain the current activities that we are running. But there, it wouldn't be complete, if we didn't look at the resources that we are having, right, to figure out how all these gears and these bows, working together, to enable what we want to do. Okay, so I think VP Finance is ultimately the role to look at, to ensure, to secure the resources that we need as an organization. So I'll switch that, and I started to work with people dealing with figure out the budget, and learn, and also, we just completed the budget for fiscal year 2025, and as many are aware, and we already share the information and make it very public and transparent to the entire community. That SIGCHI is definitely, I mean, at some point where we have to more carefully manage and budgeting for our finance. Okay, we all are confident that this can be addressed and solved, and I'm sure there might be some question around this, and I will be happy to talk more. But I will stop here, just to allow time for other people to talk. And any questions, in the past I also serve on other role, papers, committees, chairs, but I think the most relevant experience is in the EC role that I had. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. Yeah, I'll stop here. Yeah.
Thanks, Hao-Chuan. That was great. The next one in my titles is Sandy. Please introduce yourself and remind us what position you are applying for as well.
Thanks, Lena. I'm Sandy Gould. I'm an academic in the School of Computer Science Informatics at Cardiff University, which is in Wales, which is one of the 4 nations that makes up the UK. I suppose I'm maybe a slightly unusual case in that I can virtually see the building I was born in from my office. So I'm a bit of a local lad. My research is about workplace technology. So what does it mean to have digital devices in workplaces? How does that construct work? So it's kind of a mix of kind of more interactional stuff, but also more kind of CSCW type stuff and increasingly stuff to do with the law. I'm running for membership. why am I doing that? It's I think these kind of organizations are really, really important. So I spend quite a lot of my time working on trade union activities. I think the way that higher education, universities work is changing. In the UK context, that's happening quite quickly and for reasons that aren't great. And I feel that often the way that we can maintain our kind of sort of core academic identity, if you like, and I appreciate SIGCHI represents people in industry as well, but for me, they kind of maintain that academic identity is a lot about these communities that transcend our institutions. It's about it's one of the things I like about this job, right? Like I spend as much time working with people who aren't employed by the same employer as I do with the people like actually getting paid by the same place. So it's a kind of slightly odd thing about the kind of work that a lot of us in SIGCHI are doing. And the fact that we can do this is not a given. You know, the kind of these kind of organizations, they don't kind of exist in the ether. They're not independent of kind of the people that make them up. So I think it's really important to volunteer, to participate in these things. You know, we've already heard people talking about the fact that the effect that kind of SIGCHI conferences have had on people's careers, and people's careers are important for their lives. So I do feel kind of really strongly about the ability of these kind of these bodies to give us more out of our work than we would get if we were just kind of siloed into our institutions. Specifically on membership, I've done membership roles before, not for SIGCHI conferences, but in a trade union capacity. I think I have a kind of quite a positivist empirical training, and I kind of have brought that to the role in the past. I like to look at the membership lists and dig through it and try and work out, as Adriana pointed out, who are the members. I think a lot of the time it's easy to imagine that they're kind of a homogenous set of folks, but obviously that's not the case, and that's something that I think that has changed for SIGCHI over the last decade, especially. So how do you deal with membership of an organization where what being a member means is quite different for different groups of people? How do you manage tensions in what people want from membership, when sometimes those tensions might be very difficult to reconcile? What is a great benefit for some members, maybe of no relevance or use whatsoever to others? How do you decide how to allocate resources to those benefits? How do you work out who will benefit? I think I sort of take the kind of quite empirical perspective on that. Try and collect some data, work out what's happening and what people want to do, and act on that. So, like I said, I feel quite strongly about these organisations and what they do for us. And so I volunteered because they don't exist without people volunteering their time. Without that, they wither. And unfortunately, we've seen that in a UK context for other professional bodies. They've not been supported as the way in maybe the way they might have been, and that's a disservice to the community, which is a shame. So, yeah, I'm volunteering my time. Hopefully, could be useful in the role, and keep things going so that PhD students coming in, undergraduate students coming in, going to KAIST. We got the students go to student design competition. There's still something there for them in 10 years, even if our universities don't work in 10 years. Maybe SIGCHI will still be doing useful things. I'll be quiet as well now because I talk for too long.
Well, I thank you for that, and I do appreciate everybody here who stepped up and is putting their time on the line for the SIGCHI membership. So, Bastian, please introduce yourself. Let us know what position you're running for, as well as why you're interested in that position.
Okay, so there was an announcement which is why I had to mute my microphone for a moment. Can you hear me for now? Okay, great. Okay, good. Yeah, so my name is Bastian Pfleging. I am currently a full professor of ubiquitous computing at TU Freiburg in Germany, so in Europe. So what we do in Freiburg and what I've been doing in the past within the different sort of SIGCHI sub-communities do research in the context of mobile interfaces and especially automotive user interfaces or interfaces for mobility. So that's also still what we do and what my team is especially looking into. So before joining TU Freiburg as full professor, I was assistant professor at TU Eindhoven in the Netherlands. Before that, PhD student in different labs in Germany, as well as I also spent half a year in California working for a car company over there. Yeah, and so why am I running for a position within the SIGCHI within SIGCHI, and which role I'm running for is the sort of VP finances. And my idea is to kind of really support SIGCHI in getting to a state where we have a sustainable and a sort of a solid budget in the coming years. And looking into kind of what I've been doing in the past, I've been involved in sort of running various conferences, including CHI, Mobile HCI, TEI, WIST, Augmented Humans, probably forgot one. And in different roles, also including those with sort of financial responsibility or sort of contributing to kind of the financial aspects. And what we saw in many of these conferences, obviously, is that it's always a challenge to kind of reach sort of a solid budget already for these conferences. And on the one hand, kind of I would like to support sort of all the whole SIGCHI community in running conferences and events in a sustainable financial way, and sort of sharing the experience with all different people all around the world within SIGCHI. And I think sort of what we have really in SIGCHI is a very welcoming and international and diverse community, which we should keep and sort of extend, obviously. And that's also why I think it's really interesting to see that we have people from different places in the world kind of running for positions within SIGCHI, and which is why I would like to kind of bring in here kind of the European perspective, obviously, sort of, and with that sort of supporting people all over the world, obviously, and kind of as I think it really helps to see and hear different perspectives and then integrate them into something as good as possible to kind of really run for a sustainable SIGCHI for the next years.
Excellent. Thank you all for that introduction. That just helps everyone get a chance to see where you're coming from. I'm going to ask a few questions, and then I may pull from Slido, or if somebody joins us, I'm going to allow them to ask questions in the second half of this hour. One of the first questions that I like to ask folks is, what is that one thing that you would like to accomplish? You know, it sounds like a 3-year term is a long time, but shockingly, that goes by quite quickly. So if you had to say the one thing I'd like to accomplish in this role for this 3 years is this, what would that be? I'm going to start with membership, and then I'm going to move over to finance. So Adriana, if I can go start with you, and then Sandy, and then Hao-Chuan and Bastian.
Okay. I think about this a little bit, but so the one thing is I would like to have more of a community feeling to our membership, like our members would feel like they're part of a community. So creating that community opportunities for meeting beyond conferences, probably. So what types of things can we do to sort of, I think that's one thing that would really motivate our members to join or to stay members, is that if they have access to a community, that they actually feel that they're part of something that's, I don't know, bigger than themselves, if you will, where they can join in and meet people and exchange information and talk, people from all over the world, maybe. And so I think that's one thing that I think is important to me, is that we achieve this sort of community and that it's a diverse and also global in many ways, of course, because I'm in the global south, which is usually underrepresented in these things. So I think I'm going to stop there.
Excellent. Thank you. Sandy, how about you? What one thing would you like to try to achieve?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I take your point about the 3-year term and what's possible. I think for me, so one thing that I've done a lot of over the years is kind of like going back to what I said in my opening pitch is I've done quite a lot of analytics work, especially for Kai. I think what I would want to focus on is building a way of understanding the membership over time, and to understand not just in terms of the kind of demographic data that we get, about where in the world people are registering from, and that kind of thing, but more in terms of those kind of preferences and interest. What do people want out of it? Do they want, as Adriana suggested, the kind of community? I'd love that. I think that's the great thing about these things. But like I said, for other people, it might be that the kind of there are tangible material benefits to being a member, which may be valuable to members as well. And how is that changing? How does that look over the kind of the different ways of slicing up the membership in terms of students versus maybe staff in permanent positions, tenured staff, that kind of thing. And I guess that just kind of appeals to my orientation of trying to get some data in, which of course is difficult in this context because people are really, really busy. And getting your survey, like every time you buy something online, you're being asked for your opinion and your feedback and stuff. So it's really, really difficult to get that. So I suppose the first task would be to work out how to incentivize or encourage people to participate in that, and then try and work out kind of some kind of agreement for what kind of data is important to have over time to see how the membership is changing and how the demands of the membership or the interests of the membership are changing. I think if I could get that in place over 3 years, I think that would be great. If there was a scope to make decisions about that data, that would be even better. But I think probably even if that could be in place, that would probably be, I think that would be really pleased with that.
I love scoped yourself. Okay, now Hao-Chuan, moving on to VP Finance. If you could achieve one thing in the 3-year term, what would be your focus?
Yeah, obviously there will be a lot of things to do, but I think it all point to one direction, just in my observation and in my reflection too. If I have to pick a word to say that, to represent what I want to do, is resilience. Okay, it's resilience. So the community has good time and bad time. So we have to. I think we all agree. The SIGCHI has been doing wonderful things. I still recall when I was a student how I was motivated and inspired, and we all want to do the same to our student, and or other people's student. We just want to achieve all together, right? But we also understand when we know that we can grow, but we can. It's probably it would be very hard. We continuous growing every way, right? Because at some point we will face all the high cost, sustainability issue. When you expand, there could be bubbling, right? And they're just like economy, right? It grows too fast, too hard, then there will be other kind of challenges that we have to face, right? And so just putting all together, I think it's a value that we want this thing to continue, okay? We want sustainable growth, right? We want diversity, equity, and inclusion. And putting together, I think it's resilience. It's like we have to support each other. Good times we achieve together. When it's bad times, we still work together. We are not just leave. We are going to stay here, solve the problems all together, okay? And so yeah, indeed we have challenges. I'm going to work with the EC, the community, the other leadership, the ASEAN leadership, and we already started with some of these changes and the ideation, and the implementation. There are multiple directions, and the other thing is it's really dynamic. It's like things can change really fast. Like upcoming ASEAN Open, model, it's not much that we know. There's still a lot of changing factors and parameters, and how much will be the impact, and we have to be resilient. Okay, we have to be resilient. So that's the thing I want to achieve and ensure the community is resilient and we can face new challenges.
Thank you very much for that answer. Bastian, what would you like what one thing would you like to focus on if you only had one thing for this 3-year term?
Yeah, well, I think it's actually sort of pretty much comparable to what just has been said. So I think so. One thing that really is essential that SIGCHI develops some sort of resilience in many ways, and obviously sort of as a candidate for VP finances, sort of our focus is on kind of looking at the budget and looking at sort of how we can support the rest of the EC with sort of financial aspects, obviously. And so I think in that sense, obviously, sort of what we need to keep an eye on is obviously looking at a solid and sort of sustainable budget for the future, where I think, yeah, sort of there were years where sort of this looked worse than in other years, and so I think right now there are some challenges also with regard to sort of all the different changes with regard to formats of conferences, sort of numbers of submissions that clearly kind of especially looking at Kai sort of make a huge difference on, I don't know how the conference is run now or can be run now, or sort of maybe how it should be run in the future compared to the past, and so I think really looking there into kind of models of how we can ensure that also kind of SIGCHI members in 10, 20 years can still sort of use all the benefits and sort of enjoy working in this awesome community is what we should look for. And obviously that also relates to kind of a solid budget. And yeah, so that's why I think that this is an essential thing. And maybe if I can add one more thing, I think looking at the different people involved in kind of financial aspects in all the SIGCHI activities, especially looking at conferences, I think what I would also try to look into is how we can support the finance chairs and general chairs of the different conferences, the specialized conferences, and kind of really sort of also contributing towards a positive SIGCHI budget, because obviously sort of how a conference is run and sort of whether sort of there's a plus or minus at the end obviously affects the overall SIGCHI budget. And I think therefore it's also really interesting and essential kind of to make sure that we're on track there. And I think there's some challenges that all people face when they run a conference, and kind of how we can support them. And I think it involves a lot of listening and understanding, what I'm clearly eager to do, and see how we can support people with that regard in the future.
Thank you for that. So I've heard a little bit of everybody talking about somebody they would like to work with. In my many years on the EC, I always like to say that there's a lot of work to do, and it's better to work with others than to try to do everything yourself. So, and we're supposed to be an EC working together. So I just thought I would ask everybody, who do you imagine you would want to work with? And that could be a position on the EC. It could be somebody in the EC. It could be some group within the community. There's no right or wrong answer here, but just thinking more broadly about who you might be closely wanting to work with in order to achieve that goal that you just talked about. I'm going to go backwards now, if that's okay. I'm going to start with Bastian and Hao-Chuan, and then I'll move back with Sandy and Adriana.
Okay, I mean your question was again quite manifold, so I think there's quite a few things to mention here. So one thing which I find interesting, and what I would like to see more is, but that's obviously a tough one, but that still we could look into this, is sort of really seeing how we can run conferences also in maybe less usual places, especially thinking of the Global South, for instance, and so how can we extend SIGCHI in these areas and see that we sort of run conferences and support local communities with that regard. I think that would be really fantastic if we get there. I think there's a lot of challenges, but yeah, we should try it and see if we can do that. Yeah, and other than that, sort of looking at sort of whom to work with on an EC level, well, that's a obviously sort of tough question, because obviously there's elections and sort of we can't really influence a lot with that regard. I think what I see and what I would like to have is that we have a diverse committee where all different nationalities yeah, sort of are involved, gender sort of positions. So I think there's a lot here to say, and sort of having, I mean, reflecting the community, which is so super diverse, is really essential. And so that's why I would support really a very diverse committee, and I'm happy to work with people that also have a mindset of being inclusive in all these many ways.
Thank you. Hao-Chuan, in your goals, who do you imagine you would like to work with?
Yeah, finance has to work with virtually everyone because everyone needs resources, right? So if you really need one word, that's everyone. But I have to say, okay, I think, and this is my observation, okay, while we work with everyone, but it's obvious like someone, they don't know that they have to talk to finance. And this will be the people I want to work with because these are hidden stakeholders, and their decision making, their action taking, all this should be financially informed. They should be informed about the all the financial, either the budget, the situation, the policy. They need to be better informed. And so a lot of effort and time and the collaborative work can be better directed to the productive direction, I would say. Okay. And so it is the communication work. Maybe it doesn't feel like finance, but I really see this as a core, at least in the future 3 years for finance, is communicating with hidden stakeholders. Yeah. And we have to identify them. So, yeah.
Yeah, so where's the hard part? Um, Sandy, I believe I'm sorry, I forgot my order. Sandy, I believe you're the next one. Who would you like to work with 3 years?
I think my experience of working on executives is that everyone does have to work together. So you've got people who have been elected to specific roles, and obviously they have responsibilities. But the point of being an executive is that you take collective decisions. That's kind of the idea. You have people who've got expertise on particular topics that they've been, elected to try and work through. But ultimately, the point of having the executive committee is to come together and make collective decisions about those things. It's not, just because you're the VP for membership doesn't mean that you make all of the decisions about memberships. That's not how these things work, or at least that's not how they work when they're working well. So kind of everyone, but that's a bit of a vague answer. I think in particular I would be interested in working closely with the chapters, the VP for chapters. That feels like to me like it's quite closely connected to membership in terms of, it's a kind of a further subdivision of a community. I think something that might be really interesting to look at is again, from the data perspective, the kind of life cycles of chapters, because chapters come and go. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But trying to understand, well, what is it that gets people to start up their chapters, and what means that they run out of steam and shut down. Which, like I said, is I don't think that's necessarily something to be. If they're all closing down, it's a problem. But things pop up and things serve their purpose and they go away. And I think that's normal for these things. But I think I would be keen to know more about what is it that sustains the chapters that have been running for a long time. What sustained those? And if people want to start long running chapters, what would they need to do? And likewise, if people want kind of almost kind of task and finish chapters, people set up chapters for, we're going to have to set up a chapter for 3 years. We'll see how it goes. This is what we're going to try and do in the next 3 years with a chapter. And if after 3 years we've done what we wanted, maybe we close it down. So I guess I probably want to do that with the person with the responsibility for chapters. So I guess that's my answer. He's frozen for everyone, right?
Yeah, is she frozen? That's what I think. Looks like it.
Do you
Maybe
want
I
us to
should
carry
go.
on? Is that
Yeah,
what we need to do?
yeah. Maybe I should keep going. Yeah, I think we lost her. So I guess I'll carry on. Who should I work with? Again, I first want to echo Bastian's comment about valuing the importance, actually, having an inclusive and diverse group. Having different types of opinion has been very valuable in these past years working with the EC and stuff, that you get to learn a lot and to listen a lot and to see different points of view and stuff. And as far as working with something, hi, Elena. We just kept going. Hello. Okay. And as far as working with someone, definitely first one that came to my head was chapters. And I see chapters as a big asset that we have, that, you know, that maybe we can tap into a little more. And, you know, have the chapters, they're the ones on the ground at the locations. And if we want to look at this diverse and dispersed community that we have and number of members, is, you know, chapters are a good way into these communities, at different places, the different institutions, you know, sort of. So I'd say chapters and the regional committees that we've put together as well in this past 3 years. Have also been an asset, you know, a way to get to know certain regions and certain locations a little better, where maybe we don't have that much representation. So I'd say that, and so yeah, and I guess, of course, working and talking to everybody is always important. So I suppose chapters would be first, and then probably accessibility to see, you know, some of our members' needs, particular might be fulfilled. Conferences when I want to travel, and how do you sort of work with local communities and increase, you know, work to create, and not create necessarily, but strengthen any local communities that might exist where they're going, and sort of, so there are a lot of possibilities. Anyway, so I see.
Thank you for continuing as my internet dropped. It was catchy. Okay, so I will ask my next question really quickly before my internet drops again. And so this question came up for one of our other interviews, which was the SIGCHI membership to overpower. How do you plan to keep new members engaged in the SIG? Adriana.
Okay, okay. I'll go first. I'd actually seen that question in one of the other Slidos. So yeah, I mean, we've grown a lot. We're now, I think, the largest SIG with ACM, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, there are different interests, that people have different interests. And I think that we need to go, we're not getting all these 5,000 people at CHI. They're not, some of them might not even be attending any of our conferences. So they're members for different reasons. So I would say, I think we have to look for different ways of engaging people that go beyond conferences. I think we're very conference focused. So maybe we have different programs. Maybe we have online events or workshops, or I don't know, courses. So different ways of making things happen. And then again, chapters again, you know, working with chapters to, you know, help tap into these communities, these people who are in these communities that may or may not be attending our conferences. Maybe they can't come to our conferences for whatever reason. So I think there's a need there for something that's a little bit more inclusive and looks to these different things, these different possibilities that people have, you know, travel, no travel, visa, no visa, or some locations are good, some locations are bad. So we need to find ways to go beyond that. And my first thing would be to have local events, would be to have, again, partnering with chapters, so incentivize those. and to have online things, groups, interest groups, activities that people could join and that they might get value from. So I think that's it for.
Thank you, Adriana. Sandy, same question for you. Plan on
Great,
keeping
thanks.
these new members that we have.
So I think it's tricky because I think turnover is somewhat intrinsic to the SIG. You know, when you've got members who are maybe students, they're doctoral students, they come in, they're members for 3 to 7 years. You know, I think there's a question about, well, how, you know, a lot of those students might go on to maybe industry roles or doing, or, you know, in the future doing things that don't necessarily relate directly to SIGCHI. How do you appeal to them to keep them you know, to maintain their membership? Maybe you can't, right? So I think part of it is working out what is part of this kind of natural change that people come into organizations like this at a particular moment in their careers or their lives. They participate and then they move on to other things. I think that's completely normal. What we don't want to be doing is having folks who kind of ought to be members, if you like, who ought to be maintaining their membership, who kind of haven't moved on, but are not members for whatever reason, or letting their membership lapse. I think for me, one of the challenges for that is getting people to actually understand what a SIGCHI is, as opposed to CHI, the conference. Like, it's not the same thing. What it means to be a member of SIGCHI versus a member of the ACM, what it means, you know, how all these things fit together. Because I don't think it's not always super clear. I think SIGCHI is a complex organization. As I said before, I spent quite a lot of time doing trade union work. The kind of constitutions of trade unions are even more complicated and arcane. And you'll find that most members of a trade union don't really understand how the trade union works either. And so I think I guess I would hope to try and hold on to more of those kind of ought to be members folk by trying to make it clear. And again, it's a communication challenge. People got so much stuff. There's so much stuff all the time. You know, people don't. How do you get people's attention for these kind of things? Is a big challenge. How do you get people to see the value in investing their time in kind of sharing their perspectives on these things? I think that's a really big challenge for whoever takes up the membership role. Getting people to pay attention enough to understand what's happening in the organization, because ultimately a lot of the things that people are kind of dissatisfied by are things that they could change if they got involved with more involved with SIGCHI. But to do that, people need to understand how the organization works, what its remit is, what the limitations on what it can do are. Some of those will be financial for sure, and I think that's probably the point that I would want to start at in terms of that kind of retention, because without folks understanding how things work and, you know, what the SIG is doing, the purpose of maintaining a membership is going to be less obvious. So I suppose that's what I would try and work on to begin with.
Excellent. I really appreciate that answer. I'm going to move on to finance. One of the questions that we had for both of our presidential candidates, which was actually one of chat's questions, so I'm going to put it out there again. If you have to cut down spending drastically, what do you consider as core that you will fight to keep as one of the things that we spend money on? Hao-Chuan, can you start us off here?
This is exactly the difficult question, and exactly why VP Finance is so important to this organization, to this community, because these are tough decisions to make. To me, I think the core value of SIGCHI is really important. And the core value is sustainable and equitable growth. Okay, that's how I interpret it. Okay, for all the efforts that we try to do. Okay, we want growth, but we want this to be sustainable. We don't want it for just 1 year. We don't want it for just a short term. We want this to be valuable and meaningful to the human being and to the society. We want this to be equitable. Okay, we want this to contribute, benefit everyone, not just individuals. Okay, so I think with this saying, yeah, and looking at our formula, things on the plate that we have to spend, I would say I would fight to keep anything that's good for students growing, for the education of the next generation. Okay, so we can cut, for example, if we have to cut travels, I will cut the easy travel first, and we have to support student travel. Okay, especially student from global south, student from places where HCI hasn't grown yet. They have to have a chance to access, okay, and to network with people. So just to give you an example, but really, I mean, I think it's about the priority, and because we cannot sacrifice, especially in difficult time, we have to keep investing in the future. That's the chance that we can come back to a more resilient state and a more robust and sustainable growth in a couple of few years. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bastian, would you like to answer that as to if we have to cut down our spending drastically, what do you consider as core that you will fight to keep?
Yes, of course. And I think sort of like for that question, it makes sense to kind of really reflect sort of what ACM and what SIGCHI are. And I mean, yeah, sort of just looking at, I mean, if you have a look at the website, yeah, sort of it says, and obviously that's what ACM is about. Yeah, kind of it's the largest educational and sort of scientific computing society. And so SIGCHI within that big organization obviously looks at sort of the human-centric aspects of computing. And so yeah, sort of I think this pretty much sets the goal of what SIGCHI should do and needs to do, kind of look into educational and scientific aspects. And so with that regard, clearly what I consider essential on the one hand is the scientific exchange, and sort of that includes on the one hand publications, obviously sort of that we maintain the good and excellent quality of sort of SIGCHI publications, all the different outlets that we have. And I think especially also looking at kind of sort of conferences, sort of what I consider essentially here is really the scientific exchange. Sort of, it doesn't necessarily need to be obviously kind of a physical conference, but I consider this still an essential part of sort of really meeting new people, sort of exchanging ideas, exchanging thoughts, discussing aspects related to HCI within our peer groups. And one obvious thing here is, and I think that is essential, really to look into kind of sort of will be the next generations of SIGCHI members. So sort of looking into educational aspects, making sure that we get young researchers, young scientists into the community, welcoming them, ensuring that they sort of kind of hold up sort of the kind of what we consider essential for SIGCHI, and sort of obviously also develop this further. And so in that sense, I think as of all the educational activities that we have, sort of integrating young researchers into our community, the scientific exchange, these are essential things. And that obviously also includes sort of seeing how we can integrate groups that are less represented at SIGCHI right now into the community, and making sure that we are really a global community that sort of does not exclude a single person on the continent.
Well, thank you everybody for those insightful answers. We have a few minutes before the top of the hour, so I just wanted to provide everybody with final thoughts that they want to say with regards to their candidacy. And I wanted to mention, and I forgot to do this earlier, that we had one other candidate for VP membership, and for situations completely out of her control, she's unable to be here now. But if we are able to, we will try to do a short interview with just her. So it's not that she's not here by choice. So yeah, so a final thought, particularly with regards to a vision for the EC that you hope to contribute to, perhaps, for anybody who is listening to this recording. And I will go in order again of tiles. So Adriana, you're first in this order. Lucky you.
Lucky me. Okay, yeah, maybe final thoughts. I have to say that something is wrong here with my computer. Sorry. It's just decided. Anyway, um, I should say that, sorry, something popped up here and I'm just, it's like, don't know what's going on. Anyway, it's been a pleasure working with DC, and it's been a learning experience these past few years. And I've had the privilege of interacting with a lot of people during this time. And I think that's one of the basic, most important things that I think I should be worked on at the next with the next ECA, or whoever goes on to be the next either VP membership or president or whatever, is actually working closely with our members, with the community, listening to them, understanding who they are. I would like to see our membership grow, our community grow, and become as diverse as it can be, not just when we talk about Global South or whatever, but, why not also look at practitioners? We think, well, they're going off to industry and they have no interest in SIGCHI anymore. Why don't they have any interest in SIGCHI anymore? Maybe they should be interested in SIGCHI. How can we make SIGCHI more interesting to them? So look at practitioners, look at other organizations that we may be able to partner with. So I think there are a lot of different creative ways that we can look to sort of grow SIGCHI in different directions and different aspects. And so I think it's important to create opportunities for different people to come. It's important to listen to our members, to our current members, and to our non-members, and to understand why aren't they members, like I think Sandy also mentioned. So I think that'll be it for me. And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Adriana. Hao-Chuan, you're the next one in my tile lineup.
Yeah,
Final
thank
thoughts.
you. Yeah, final thoughts. Yeah, it's really my honor. I mean, to run this VP Finance election at this challenging time. It's really a challenging time, I have to say, and I'm full of commitment and patience, hoping to work with everyone to bring the entire organization to the next level. It's a challenging time to the entire world, and HCI is very important. I mean, we have to be there and we have to participate in a brighter human future. Okay, so I'm here to hoping to achieve with everyone all together, regardless of what's my role. But I hope to continue working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Hao-Chuan. Bastian, please, final thought.
Final thought. Well, yes, of course. So yeah, I mean, looking at sort of the opportunities to potentially become an EC member, I think what I really consider essential is sort of, on the one hand, looking at the EC itself, that this is that will turn into a team, sort of where everybody sort of is collaborating in a proactive way and really kind of working for the benefits of SIGCHI, sort of not taking into account kind of personal benefits and disadvantages. So I think that is obviously one of the core aspects. I think that is essential to really grow the community. And looking at the community, I think, yeah, so I really consider it essential that SIGCHI as a member of ACM becomes a truly international organization that takes into account all the different people, not only looking at sort of where they are from, but also looking at who they are. I mean, we all know, obviously, kind of from developing interfaces, and you can't build that interface that fits 100% of sort of human beings. So we all know that this doesn't work, but obviously, so we should aim for not only doing the 80-20, but maybe like the 90-10 or the 95-5% kind of goal. And I think that is something where there is still some work to do, and which I'm keen on sort of taking on and supporting the community and in growing and extending to places where we feel that SIGCHI could be of benefit.
Thank you very much. And Sandy, any final thoughts for us?
Yeah, I suppose I agree with what Hao-Chuan said about it there being. I think there's going to be quite a lot of change for the SIG. Obviously, there's current discussions about what's going to happen with Kai, which is a big part of what the SIG is. But I think the conversations that have been happening in terms of like the Kai steering committee, I think they're ultimately things that the whole SIG is going to need to be thinking about. What is it going to look like? I think Adriana spoke really well about this in terms of how are we going to do the kind of exchanges and get that kind of social connection that's so important for our work and for finding value in it and finding new people to work with. How are we going to get that as things change? Because it does seem that the status quo for all sorts of reasons. One which, as we've discussed, the whoever takes on finance is going to have to be focused on, especially that is an issue. So I suppose for me, I think there's kind of there's the potential over the next few years for there to be choices that aren't great, I suppose. I think there's likely there's going to be some trade-offs that have to be made. Some things that we might have to start doing that people would prefer that we didn't, and stop doing things that people would prefer we continue with. I suppose I'd say that I've got quite a bit of experience in those kind of situations where there are kind of quite strong competing opinions about how to proceed, and how to try and find some answers where where it's not always possible to get consensus, right? Like on some of these things, people just simply will not agree, and that's just how it is. And I think it's important for organizations like this to work out in those kind of situations is not to reach impasses where nothing happens, but to work out, well, how do you proceed when maybe it's not always there's not always consensus. For some things there will be consensus, and that's great, and everyone has a good time and a nice chat. And the things where they aren't, how do you keep things moving? How do you keep things functional, and folks being effective even in sticky situations? So yeah, sorry, that's a bit of a downer to finish on, isn't it? But I think it's important to be realistic about where things are, and the kinds of discussions that are going to have to happen over the next few years.
Well, I appreciate that because I'm a realist. So I'm okay with ending on that note. Thank you all for taking your time to schedule this and to put this in your calendar and to show up. I hope that the community appreciates that all of you are so passionate actually about contributing to the greater SIGCHI community. This is our last Meet the Candidate as far as my calendar goes. And I believe the ACM should be putting out statements very soon. I don't actually know at this point when they're going to come out. But this will also be, as it's recorded, will be posted soon for everybody to watch. So I just want to say thank you again to everybody for their time here.
Great, thank you for sharing.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Nice to see you all. Take care. Bye.
Take care.
And good luck.